Hello, everybody. Everything looks fine. Let's just this a little closer. Hey, everybody. Welcome aboard to this live show. Let me just go here, and we're going to look at pirates, possible pirates. And here we go. So some were reported already in the past. Today we're 29th. Oh, yesterday, but not today. Yeah. One ball smacker was reported last night. So, anyways, we'll be looking at that and see if any pirates show up. I have a signal on 6925 actually. If I look here, which seems to be AM signal. Check that out. There's definitely a pirate on 6925, but I don't hear a lot of the audio seems low. So, hey everyone, welcome aboard to this live show where we talk about radio and have fun with radio. No, I'm not dressed this year. I didn't have time for anything this month. It was like the month just flew by like this. So, but I did put the ghost and yellow, orange colored background. So let me check it out here. Everything's okay. And let's start. I'll take a little sip of my vodka cranberry. And let's start this show. So we do have a ghost, definitely. Nice to have all of you here, and it's been 2 weeks. So nice to have everybody back. This is the Shortwave Live Show. We are here every Saturday at 20 hours Universal Time. And this is the show where we talk about radio, shortwave radio in general, and so on. And of course, we have a lot of fun talking and having, there's some great people here that just have fun as we just share our radio passion together. We have a chat room that you can join. And that is also a great place where if you're new to the hobby or a seasoned veteran, everybody's welcome. Everybody's really cool and nice with each other. It's always a lot of fun to see the interaction. When this is over, well, we have a Facebook group where all of this continues, which is official SWL channel. And once again, that's where it continues after all of this. Lots of action there too, almost 3,000 members. And people share what they're listening to, the radio they use, radios they buy. Once again, lots of fun and lots of friendship on the group. My name is Gilles. I'm located in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, northeast part of North America, and we are here live today, Saturday, October 29th, 2 days away from Halloween. And of course, what does that mean? Halloween pirates. And so we're going to check out tonight if we hear a few of them. Like I said, there is one 6925 AM mode that I see on the waterfall here right now. So if you want to try that one. I heard spooky sounds. There's been a pirate popping up, 7,000 kilohertz lower sideband. And he's been playing some interval signals, IDing with Morse code, WLIS, the old We Love Interval Signals pirate. And I don't remember what Wednesday or Thursday night. Same frequency, 7,000 kilohertz lower sideband, was hearing Halloween sounds, chains and music and scary howling and so on. So I don't know if it's the same pirate, but kind of interesting to see that. He's not very strong here, but I've seen that some people down like in the Carolinas, Virginia, were reporting S7, S8, S9 even. So it might be kind of more in the central east side of the United States. But it's something to look at. That definitely. Tomorrow, big change for everybody, and we're going to talk a little more about that after I go through the chat room quickly. We have the change of shortwave schedules. A lot of newbies and a lot of people that are new in the hobby don't know exactly what that is. So I mentioned it sometimes as we're going to the B22 schedules tomorrow, Sunday. What does that mean? Shortwave stations change their frequencies. Not all of them, but a big part of them change their frequencies 2 times a year. There's the summer schedules, or winter if you're in the southern hemisphere, as which are the A22 schedules, or the A schedules. So the number goes with the year. So we have A22 that's finishing today. Today's the last day. Actually, tonight at 0 UTC, we will be in the B22 schedule. So if you try to find your favorite show and it's not on the frequency that you hear it and that frequency is empty, it might mean that the station that you usually listen to has shifted to their new B22 schedules. So we're going to talk about that. And this weekend is the big CQ Worldwide DX Contest single sideband. The amateur bands are full of stations. I actually enjoyed that little part this week because a lot of them prepare in advance, a few days in advance, and make contacts to kind of, get back into the hang of making contacts and so on. So I was able to make contacts this week with Cayman Islands, St. Lucia. I had Venezuela. I had Nicaragua. I had made contact with. Um, I'm trying to remember all the exotic places I got. Anyways, a lot of them were contest stations, Aruba, and a lot of them were just practicing, and some of them were groups practicing to get the hang of it before the big contest, which is going on right now. It's a great time to brush up on tuning SSB single sideband signals. And there's also another thing with this is not only is it a good time to brush up with your single sideband tuning, what is also interesting in here is you'll hear countries, islands, and exotic places that we never hear on the band. So tune around and check that out. It's kind of a lot of fun. One of the things I would do over time was to go through the bands when there was that contest, and just log as many countries as possible with the amateur radio stations. So, but it was fun this week to with the FTDX10. My signal seems to be really getting out there. I mean, almost of all the stations that I tried this week, I'd say 95% of them I made contact with. There was only a handful that I couldn't. One was a very rare one, and I think was playing against me as the very high amount of people that were wanting to DX that station. And a couple of ones were really, really far and kind of faint. So if they were faint for me, maybe I was very faint for them, or even non-existent. I tried sort of South America a couple of times. I tried the Benin. There's a Russian contest group that is in the Benin area in Africa, and I tried that one, which I wasn't able also to contact. So, but a lot of stuff, and like I said, 95% of the stations, and most of them, and that also is surprising me because, when there's a pileup in the amateur bands, you have to go through that noise of all the stations calling. And what surprises me is most of the pileups, in the first 3, 4, 5 minutes, I make contact. It doesn't take, I don't have to spend half an hour. On the Yaesu FT450 I often had to spend half an hour to an hour sometimes to be able to go through. On the FTDX10, there's definitely a better signal and maybe also the better audio that goes with it, because I definitely take 5-10 minutes and I just get in there. And I mean, I'm just using 100 watts, and I'm just using a end-fed V-shaped antenna, which is a very experimental thing right now that I'm trying, which seems to be working wonders actually. So I made it to Brazil, Nicaragua. I made it to the Caribbean islands of like Aruba, St. Lucia. I got the Cayman Islands. I've got there's one that I forget that's a pretty exotic one too. I made it to Venezuela. I made it into French Guiana or Suriname. I made it into, of course, Europe. I made a lot of contacts in Europe. There's actually a fun group of Bulgarian hams. They were three on the frequency, and what they would do is once you had contact with the main station, then you had contact with the two other stations for signal exchange, signal reports, which was a lot of fun. Italy, lots of hams from Italy. I'm amazed at the amount of hams from that country that we hear on the bands. And one of them was speaking French, which was very interesting because he immediately switched to French when he heard my call and he saw my name. So, anyways, I am having fun with the ham gear and checking out what stations are out there and tuning around. Also, I'm going to continue talking a little bit about the receive side of it. A lot of people are asking me a lot of questions on the receiver itself, you know, how good a receiver it is. Am I getting things that I'm not getting on a portable and so on? So we're going to talk about all of that, try to get all of that information in throughout the show today. Master Players Radio and Television plus Gaming. Nice to have you here, Bobby. WA5107 SWL, Morgan City, Louisiana. Richard Wagner. Nice to have you here from Northeast Illinois and feeling much better. Cool. Rob in Phoenix, Arizona. Nice to have you here. Davis Radio Room. Nice to have you on board. Roberto Rojas. Nice to have you here from Argentina. Gary 24 Fan. Nice to have you here. Richard Wagner is doing an experiment. Let's hope it works. Dwayne, nice to have you on board from Northeast Tennessee. Glenn T, nice to have you on board from Florida. We have John Hummel Newell, VE5JHN. Nice to have you here, John. RJDA Dakota, nice to have you here from Winsville, Missouri. And WA0113SWL. We have Matt, MDK2. Nice to have you here from Denver, Colorado. And had our first snow. Wow, today's 60 degrees. Yeah. Here we had our yesterday morning. I left early. There is frost, and I think it's pretty much the first real frost in Montreal, and which is a little later than usual. But the next couple of weeks, we're going to be in the 60s, which you know we shouldn't be there. Usually November is when we get our first snow. And November is also where it's getting really colder for the winter. But the next couple of weeks seem to be pretty nice. Actually, it's going to be a really nice evening for Halloween on Monday night. We have Glenn. Nice to have you on board. KB9IN. And which station schedule sites have B22 data already? Well, the hfcc.org is the place to go. I've noticed that a lot of the websites from the radio stations, from the shortwave stations, are not up to date yet, and some of them are slow on changing that info on their page. But hfcc.org, everybody that registered frequencies for the winter, that's going to be the place where you have info. Cliff Moores, nice to have you on board from Southern Arizona, listening to 27385 lower sideband. Robert Cross, nice to have you on board. Well, last Saturday I wasn't here, so you didn't miss anything, Robert. So welcome to the show today. We have Chuck, nice to have you here in 5KVO from sunny South Texas. We have DJW883, nice to have you here from Southeast Pennsylvania. Ricky, nice to have you on board from Alberta. Mad Max 2069, nice to have you here. We have, let me just check the email, make sure I don't miss out anything. I always forget the email. So we have an email. If somebody said hello, I'm live apparently. And nope, nobody said hi for now. Been a long time. Somebody asked me about Elizabeth in Regina. Been a long time since I've had contact with her. I was thinking of maybe sending her a little hello and asking if everything's all right. The VA3 JPX, nice to have you on board. PLF Radio, bonjour. J'espère que ça va bien depuis Lyon en France. Toujours un plaisir. We have Fix Anything. Nice to have you here from Pakistan. Nice to have you on board. Greg, nice to have you on board. Your friend is going okay, doing pretty well. Let's hope it gets even better. We have WFG59. Nice to have you on board. Vodka Cranberry, Breakfast of the Champions. Well, it's more of the late afternoon here. So I usually have a rule that I do not have a drink before 5 p.m., except for Christmas, New Year, and maybe camping. Aerial Imaging, nice to have you on board. Just got his third generation Belka. You like it? PLF Radio, maybe there are reports of pirate stations on HF Underground website. Yeah, I'm looking at that right now. I've actually put the HF Underground site here on the tablet. So 6925 AM. Okay. Radio Comedy Club International. This is what I'm getting here, apparently. Radio Comedy Club International. So we have that right now on 6925 AM mode as a pirate. Mike Jam, nice to have you on board from New Hampshire. Adesh Manar Rikemson, nice to have you here from Trinidad and the Caribbean. Keegan DeExter, nice to have you on board from Northwest Arkansas. We have Michael, nice to have you here from Northern New Jersey. Raking Leaves and Shortwave. Raking the Shortwave also. Aerial Imaging, what antenna are you using with your new Yaesu radio for transmitting? So the antenna itself is technically an end-fed wire. So it's like a 60-foot end-fed wire with a unbalanced transformer to match with the radio. And it was decent. But I had an idea when I was doing the special event station for the Canadian International DX Club. The fact that I didn't have a lot of contacts was making me a little crazy. So I thought, let's experiment and see if it works. So what I did is I added a second roughly 60 feet wire also, but I threw it in neighbor's tree. So right now it's like an end-fed, or I don't know if you can call it an end-fed anymore because it's V-shaped. So it's maybe not an end-fed antenna since it has two wires that are going in the V shape. It technically probably isn't called an end-fed anymore, but it is still with the unbalanced transformer. And my Yaesu FDX10 seems to be tuning it really well, and all the way down to 160 meters. I mean, my standing wave is almost non-existent. So it seems to be pretty good, and pretty good on all bands. So this is nice because, I mean, you try to do something, and here it's a little difficult to really put a lot of stuff out. So it's kind of a V-shaped antenna at an angle, and I've been making a lot of contacts, and it seems that I'm getting out there. So it's really, really cool. Grounded the Yaesu on the, it was difficult to find a grounding spot for my Yaesu. But since I'm in the kitchen and that it's close to the dryer, and the dryer is grounded, what I did is I grounded the Yaesu on the dryer's metal frame, and that also prevents, because I had a little bit of feedback. There was on 10 meters particularly, I was getting into, believe it or not, I was getting into my coffee machine. I was hearing myself talk in my coffee machine, which was like, what? Because at first I was hearing myself and I was wondering what. So I did a little test and I noticed that it was in my coffee machine in the back. And since I had it that ground wire to the metal frame of the dryer, it stopped. I don't have that feedback anymore. So that definitely helped. Um, Matt says, keep in mind that some stations also switch their time by an hour to keep the same local time for target audience. For us in North America, we don't change time for a week. For example, Radio Romania does that with, I think, all their broadcasts. So for 1 week, those broadcasts will be an hour later until we change time. Yeah, that is, to add to the confusion. I never understood why a station that, is in UTC does that. They should not be doing that, honestly. So, anyways, yeah, there are a couple of stations that do that. Radio Romania is one of them. They shift their time. So, and we're going to shift our time next Sunday. So next week, the show is still at the same time for everybody. But remember that my UTC time for the show stays the same. What that means is that the show, instead of being at 4 p.m. Eastern Daylight, will now be at 3 p.m. Eastern Daylight because I keep the same UTC. So if you're used to using UTC, you're okay. I'm always at 20 hours UTC. I never shift. But if you shift your time, you will actually have me at an hour earlier, basically. TVD Xer, ça va bien? J'espère que tu vas bien toi aussi. Just close to Montreal. We have Jay Gilbert. Nice to have you on board, Jace. We have Neil. Nice to have you here from Nottingham, UK. Rennie Charbonnier. Nice to have you here from the Netherlands. Matt says audio is key. I have to remember to compress my audio on SSB or nobody hears me. Yeah, I think it's one big part of the reason I'm here. One of the first things I noticed is when I put on the air my FTDX10, how much better my audio was. It didn't seem like some cheap, weird, high pitched voice. It sounded richer, more full of frequencies. It definitely was much better. And, honestly, maybe it's the only reason why actually it's so much better. But I also have the impression that the FTDX10's internal tuner seems to maybe tune better my antenna outside. But all of that together, it's a mix of all of that, I think, that makes my signal just really reach areas. All right, there's Ollie Crafter's Kitchen. Nice to have you here from Massachusetts. And says, I've been having a blast with my Goodwill GE Monitor 10 from 1978. These radios are fun to play with. Everything that, if I find an old multi-band radio or anything, old shortwave receiver from the past for cheap in some, store or whatever, it's always fun to play with these old radios. Always. They're really, really nice to have those. Eric Cottrell, bonjour, hi from Boston. Nice to have you here. We have Mountain Meddling. Nice to have you on board from Pennsylvania. And yeah, I saw your post, Eric, about Moose Jaw getting snow. October is a tricky month in Canada for a lot of spots. You never know what could happen. So, yeah, fix anything. You're not the first Pakistan station fix anything. I've had a few in the past, but nice to have you here. So Richard says, nope, no go. Kevin, nice to have you here. WS2H just paid my $35 US to renew my ham license. 10 years went by fast. As far as your antenna goes, here's an old ham tip. If it works, don't fix it. I don't plan to fix it. I plan to leave it like that all winter because I totally know that it's easy to change something and then everything is worse. So I don't have the knowledge of antennas to a point where I could kind of see what exactly I created with that V-shaped antenna. Is it some kind of inverted V? It goes down. I don't know. I don't know what to call it exactly. I'd have to look at the antenna books and see anything that's similar. If anybody's good in antennas out there, just keep in mind it was so my antenna was an end fed. It was just a wire, 60 feet, in a sloper mode. So it was going from third floor down to the fence, or not to the fence, but a little higher than the fence. At the lowest point, it's, I'd say, about 12, 14 feet off the ground. To a V shape in the same sloper style, going down to about the same. The other wire is going down to the same, about 12 to 14 feet at the other end in the tree. So it's at an angle. It is V-shaped with about, I'd say the angle, the shape of V is probably 30 degrees ish in angle. And since I had that second wire just for fun, I immediately noticed an increase in my success rate when contacting stations. So ain't touching it. It works. The only thing that happens is when it's windy, that one in the tree kind of dangles from one side to the other because I gave it some slack to make sure it doesn't break, while the other one stays put. But I'm having fun. So I don't know. Is that some kind of inverted V or some kind of, I don't know. That's what I'm wondering. I need to get an antenna book from the ARRL and check out stuff. Erica Charles says, and NWS says, good chance of warmer than normal temps in Northeast US. That's, they were saying here in the weather that we should have above average 60s, close to 70 Fahrenheit temperatures until about mid-November. So it's like, wow, it's going to be warmer than usual, and it's going to be beautiful days. David from New Hampshire, KB1PYB, nice to have you on board. What else do we have? Let's check it out. We have Matt says Radio New Zealand's website has the B22 schedule up along with what is still currently 22. A lot of regular broadcasters always switch to the same frequencies. Yeah, that is one thing to remember. For example, Radio Romania, I know, will probably be still using 7375, which is kind of the one that they keep all year long, or sometimes 7325. But there are definitely a lot of broadcasters that go to the same frequencies. Like I expect Spain to be back on 9690 from their 17855 frequency. It's time that they change, because that 17855 in the last couple of weeks, even with a higher solar activity, I had a hard time making it here in the East Coast in Montreal. So 9690 is going to be a welcome change. Mike WX50, nice to have you here from Northwest Arkansas. We have DV from Boston, nice to have you here. Danny, Shortwave and Radio DX, the guy making tons of live shows. Nice to have you on board from Yonkers, New York. And he just put up an end fed outside my backyard on a tree about 45 feet off the ground, sloping across my yard. Slingshot works well. Yeah, for that kind of thing, definitely. I have the height. So what I did is I was on my balcony, third floor, and I just threw it towards, with a little weight on the end, threw it into the tree. And I'm lucky. First try, got in the tree and got real stuck. So the way that it actually kind of dangled through a branch, it's just, if you pull on it, it doesn't come out. So it's like, okay, that also I'm not touching anymore. So V-shape, works fine, and it works great. Mr. Squirrel, nice to have you here, upstate New York. Francis Moore, nice to have you here. We have Hooked 911. Anyone try the HF0530 antenna from Amazon? Seems worth a look. $36. Totally different amp and bias T than the MLA30 Plus. I have one, but not been able to test yet. I don't know. I have to check that out. Matt Hogel, before I forget, I checked my satellite 750 and its AM is definitely centered on frequency and not off by even one. Never mind 3. Maybe it's a problem on more recently. Yeah, but it's not that obvious to notice. All the ones I've seen from almost everybody they're all off, even from the old one. But it's not obvious. It's not. You don't notice it necessarily until you really listen closely with a wide filter. And it's only on the wide filter, by the way, not on the narrow filter. On the narrow filter, it's okay. It seems to be on it. On the narrow filter, you're not off. It's really just on the wide filter that you feel that it's off. It's very curious, but what I would say, the more I listen to it, the more it seems to be more of an odd way of working, both on each side of the centered frequency. It's very bizarre, very bizarre. But if you put it on the narrow filter, the narrow, you're on, you're not off. So it seems it's only the weirdness of that wide filter, maybe just because it's wide. I don't know. It's bizarre. It's a very bizarre thing. Jim, nice to have you here from Rhode Island. Matt says, I've gotten some decent listening just using internal antenna. There's one thing I like about it compared to my ZRs, the noise reduction, which seems to be built in, makes for much nicer audio. What else do we have? Yeah, coffee machine is a receiver. It's like, what? It's, I struggled to find what was actually reacting when I was making contacts. Only on 10 meters. Doesn't do it anywhere else. And I was like, what? Where am I hearing myself? I was really puzzled. Where am I hearing myself? And of course, the antenna is just outside near the kitchen. So the signal, that 100 watts in the kitchen, probably is, quite strong. So at first I thought it was my fridge. I was like, is it coming from my fridge? And it's when really listening closely that I noticed it was a coffee maker. So coffee maker wants a QSL card. So, yeah, Greg, I like it too. It's been there for a couple of years. Had it for a couple of years. It's a nice little ghost there, Greg. Keegan, yeah, the coffee table book about coffee tables. So, what else do we have? Robert Cross, our clocks will be changing tonight, and ours will be changing next week. Yeah, exactly, RJ Dakota. The show doesn't move. It's your clock does if it's not in UTC, because it's 20, 30, 20 UT is 20 UT. Tony, nice to have you here from Hamilton, New Zealand. Cool. Nice to have you on board, my friend. Pretty cool. Darren Rogers, nice to have you here from Long Island, New York. Robert Cross, restored 1968 Roberts radio 2 years ago. And then it didn't switch on for months till I bought batteries for it today and worked great since they restored it. Cool. Keegan DeXter, nice to have you here. Already said that. My dad has a Zenith H500 transoceanic from 1951. So it's pretty cool. And you've got the Zenith R7002. These are really beautiful radios, honestly. Mountain Meddling says, yeah, I agree. Playing with old radios still fascinates me, just as used. It's a interesting there's something interesting about the older technology that is fascinating. We talk about like computers. Um, we were mentioning how old computers I find fascinating, like a Commodore computer or an Amiga 500 or things like that. I find fascinating to use still today. And I got this gaming laptop, which is nice and powerful and everything, but it just doesn't. Buying a computer today doesn't get to me anymore. It's like, yeah, just buying a computer. It's like nothing unusual or special about it. It's not like in the days of the Commodores and the Amigas and the TRS 80 and these old, and even an old PC. You know when you would the fascination of, oh, I got this new sound card with better sound quality and these voices and stuff, and I'm going to change that graphics adapter. And there's a fascination about the technology, how you could tweak it back in the day. And of course you can still tweak it today if you buy a desktop. But it's become so mainstream, kind of boring. I mean, I've got all these PCs here, and everybody's like, "Oh wow, you're lucky you got all of that." It's like, yeah, it's okay, it's okay. They're powerful computers. They do what I want and what I need, but there's nothing exciting about it. Radios is the same. I mean, I am excited about the Yaesu FTDX10, that hybrid style with SDR and everything. It's really cool to use, honestly. Like the new portables, the Texan receivers and so on. They're cool radios, but somehow those new radios don't have the same excitement as when I got my Panasonic RFB 300, which is kind of crappy when you look at today's radios. But I find it kind of exciting to play around with it compared to today's radio. There's something about the older technology that's kind of cool, definitely. But that said, I would not, I would not go back in time. That's for sure. Uh, what else do we have? What else do we have? Let me try to find my spot again. I'm just trying to find my spot. Here we go. Going down. There we go. Okay, here we go. Thomas Kitts, nice to have you on board. We have Robert Cross restored the 1968 Roberts radio 2 years ago, and yeah, that's what I was earlier. So okay, that's good. That's good. Playing with old radios. Oh, here we are. That's where I am. RJ Dakota, as the old saying goes, if it didn't broke, don't worry about it. You can't fix silly good luck. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Keegan the Xer have a Panasonic RF 2800 with red LED frequency display for shortwave since 2008. These are nice receivers. Fred Waterer, nice to have you on board, my friend. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. VA2LEX, nice to have you here. Ahmed Murad, nice to have you here. Made me buy the ATS 25 and it's good. Tell us more about it. Thank you. Well, it's definitely a nice little radio, but you got to be careful. The ATS 25, which I got it here. The ATS 25, not everybody's happy with it, and there's a lot going on with this little radio. I need to use it more and make more videos. The one I have, I love. The firmware that's in here is nice. You can upgrade it, by the way. It's a little complicated to upgrade. So if you're not very tech savvy, it's a handful to upgrade these things. The main complaint that I've seen from a lot of people is this the encoder for the tuning knob. that a lot of people say is bad after a short while, or even they've received it already bad. So yeah, I there's you got to be there's a caution to have, and of course the newer ones. There's the ATS 25, the ATS 25 X1, and stuff like that, which are the same radio. Honestly, it's the same thing. The only difference is that the software they put in here is different. So the interface has changed. So they've changed the way it is. They've changed some of the features. I mean, this is a computerized radio, basically. So you can do a lot if you just program in the features you want. But definitely, mine. I'm happy with mine. I'm having a lot of fun with it. I mean, for what it is, it's quite sensitive, and with an outdoor antenna, when I put it on MLA30, it works great. What else do we have? Mountain meddling, and just has old pipes to old radios. I imagine what the person was doing using old radio or pipe. I'm very fascinated in the 40s here. Yeah, where these radios were and who used them, and where were what place in the house was this radio positioned, and Matt says 17855 was great for me yesterday. Haven't seen if it's still ringing in today. Here in Montreal on the East Coast, 17855. I tried it 2 or 3 times and it was almost impossible to listen. One day was very weak. A couple of days wasn't there at all. So I don't know if it's skipping over me or something, but hasn't been great lately. Zero Gluten. Nice to have you here from North Carolina. The Rorex. Nice to have you on board. Yes, I will. You know what, Rorex? I will actually drop a video. I will make a video about the antenna itself. Definitely. Neil Toombs, nice to have you here. Says anyone else getting a slight break up on the audio intermittently? So my audio's breaking up a bit. That's interesting. Is my audio higher than usual? Just gonna check something here. I haven't changed anything, so I don't know. It might be a little more sensitive than usual, though. I'm just gonna check it out here. Do this. We'll see if it fixes the problem. If it's a little better. David's radio removal and MLE30 work well on a metal pole. You know what? The loop itself, it's on a metal pole, might change. That might change its properties because it's close to metal. Yet, the there's a few of you that have done that and seems to be okay. So what else do we have? No, the connections should be okay because the microphone's connections are very, very tight. The only thing I could maybe see is that the audio is pushed a little too much. We'll see. I've lowered slightly the audio level here to see if it's better. Matt says, on a wide filter, I haven't checked because usually I use that only on local medium wave. As you know, wide is way too wide for more shortwave stations. Thanks for that. Yeah, it's really, really just the wide filter. Glenn, a 10-meter resonant coffee maker. So, yeah, it might be because my level is a little too high. So I've pushed it back a little bit. We're going to see. Mountain meddling. Almost forgot I bought a Biofeng EV5R for a starter. Need to get my license. Yeah, remember that the Biofeng technically might not be. If you've got the one that's unlocked for everything, I'm not sure it is that you can use it for amateur use technically. Zero gluten. Notice my computer makes a good antenna for my mile height. Okay, kind of interesting. The HF0530 looks like an MLE30. It might be an MLE30, simply an MLE30. You know, I've seen a lot of of antennas that are different names, but the loop and everything looks the same. I'm ready to bet that they're all exactly the same thing inside. The box is the same amplifier that's just made, and they give it different tags or different names on it. RJ Diacoda says there might be a circuit in that coffee maker that has something tuning at to about 27 megahertz. Yeah, it's possible. It was just funny to hear myself in a coffee maker. So, hooked 911, 12-volt bias T does not come with a power supply. Yeah, okay. Yeah, well, it's probably an MLE30 anyways, because the MLE30 itself uses 12 volts. What happens is that the bias T pushes the 5 volts and ups it to 12 for the amplifier, because the amplifier itself within the MLE30 is 12 volts. So I wouldn't be surprised that it's simply a MLE30 stripped of the bias T that comes with it, and just strict 12 volts, no up converting the power, basically. John Doe, nice to have you here. Nice to have you here. Hook 911, that is true. I have not looked at it closely enough to verify that if it's not 100% clone, but the layout is totally different. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure it's the same thing. I think it's the same thing, but they just package it differently. I wouldn't be surprised. Mountain Meddling says, old tube radios with a hum fascinates me and brings back memories. Erica Chell, I usually build my main computer. I want to buy a new one using the new Intel 13 Gen CPU, but I am not in the mood right now. Maybe I'll buy one off the shelf. Yeah, there's something that, just ain't as fun as it used to be before. Fred Water, part of me wants to go back to the days of Apple II. I did so many things with its software. It had to be simple to run on that awesome 64K blowtorch. Yeah. RJ Dakota, but the glow and warmth of the tubes, the radio tubes, is still very nostalgic. Oh, definitely. Hooked says, anyone have the ATX ATS25X1? Looking at that one. Yeah. It's really just, the radios, it's exactly the same thing. All of the ATS25s are exactly the same inside. The only difference, if you see one with a different, like X1 and so on, it's just that the software, the firmware they put it in, is different. So the layout on the screen will be different. It will maybe add features that will be different, stuff like that. Oh yeah, Brian R was definitely. There's always Halloween Pirate. Like I was saying earlier, this week on 7,000 kilohertz lower sideband, I was hearing howling sounds and all sorts of spooky stuff happening. So I'm pretty sure. The 6925 Pirate just seems to be gone now. I don't see it on the waterfall anymore here. Hook 911. I don't think it is, honestly. But I would need to look at it. Maybe somebody has opened it and verified that it could be. But I think it's much more of a firmware difference than anything else. But, it's not impossible. RJ Dakota, yeah. And the excitement, it's like, I don't understand Spanish or Portuguese, but the excitement in when they actually, give the descriptions of the sports is just amazing. Man. What else do we have? Cool, Greg. What else do we have? Is it better since I've lowered the audio level? What else do we have? RJ Dakota, I'm not having as much trouble now as I was with the audio. Neeson Greenwich, nice to have you here from Dublin. Wakas Ahmed just bought a Kato KA 1103 PLL from Kijiji. I think better than Kato KA 1103 DSP. Look, I don't have the DSP, so I can't say, but I've noticed that a lot of people, a lot of people seem to be finding that the original PLL is definitely better than the DSP version that came out later on. Richard Califano, nice to have you here from Albany, New York. A2157SWL. What else do we have? So audio seems better. I just had a crafters. Are you planning a Halloween show this year to chase after pirates? I don't think so. Well, you never know what could happen, but I don't think I will. I think I'm going to take that evening to go and I'd like to go and take a walk and see all the kids dressed up and the trick or treating going on. And when you start walking around, there's a lot of little stuff happening. There's always that unusual neighbor somewhere that this year decided to make a really big Halloween thing out of it. So what I usually do is take a walk and check out what's happening around. Tony receiving me well on the iPhone, so that's good. That's great. Richard, audio is great now. Paul Midlick, I want to run the long wire from my house to the top of the shed on the backyard. Any tips? If it's not noisy environment where you are, simply run it. But the best tip that I can give you on that is that the wire should actually come into your radio, into your home with a shielded cable for the part that comes inside the house to prevent all the noise from all the equipment you have. And I don't know what's your setup, maybe neighbors, to prevent the noise from creeping into that antenna. That would be the tip I have here. Vacuum tube glow is not like nothing else. Definitely Archer's Other Crafters. It's always the same thing. Every time I hear an old time radio hour show or something, I always think of, wow, this would be great if I could listen to it on an old tube receiver. Robert Cross, I would love if they design a portable radios with waterfall. That would be class. Ethan, instead of that horrible new satellite HD crap, for the money that they asked for it, it would have been nice to have something with a waterfall instead. I don't think it would have cost much. I don't think it would have cost much more to actually, implement. Fred Water loves listening to foreign languages. What else do we have? My Jam, can you touch base at the power supply? You were waiting on your new Yaesu radio. I missed that. Oh, yeah. So, okay, here's the thing. I'm going to show you guys what it is. So, I'm going to show you guys my old power supply and the new power supply that I've got, and I'm going to talk about it. I think some of you might find that it's really interesting. So, pyramid, mid, power supply. So I'm just going to show you the one I was using, which is this one. So I was using the PSV 300 heavy duty 30 amp switching from Pyramid. They also sell it as Pile, apparently. And I got something new that's a little cheap, but I'll tell you guys the way that I actually went into, okay, let's buy it. It's a Tech Power And I'm going to take power 30 SWL. Just gonna try to find a picture of it. So I'm going to show you guys what I've switched to. Take power. Power supply. Just want to show you guys the one that I got. If I can have a picture of it. No, not this one. I'm going to check it on Amazon. It's going to be easier to find. Amazon. So I'm going to check my stuff. Here we go. I'm going to show you guys a power. Either one that does that. Okay, let me just go here again. Sorry, guys. 2 seconds. I'll be here. Because, switching power supplies are noisy. A lot of them. Check power. Power supply. Just need to show you the correct one that I have. Check power TP. TP 30 WL, I believe. Is that the one? Oh, here we go. This is the one that I purchased. And here we go. Here we go. So we will talk power supplies a little bit with this. I'm just going to go down again a little more. What else we have? Paul, the one issue I have is my neighbor's Mercury Vapor garage light. I feel like buying him a non-RF bleeding option and installing it for him. Yeah, I know. Well, usually, Fred, we eat it. I got a bag full here. I had a little Halloween party with my nephew. So I've got this candy house bag full of candies. And of course, you eat it all. Francis Moore watched a program in the UK about the history of the BBC, and it showed an old Python. It was a big beast, decades old. Here, the Halloween seems to have kind of wind down a little bit. Doesn't seem to be as popular as it used to be in the past. So let me just go down a little bit. Chest Tank, nice to have you here. Danny Shortwave, Pyramid makes good power. Carol, W7, XV, nice to have you on board. Nice to see you too. Welcome aboard. Chastain, got a question for you all. My Fire tablet will not let me see nor interact on the live stream. What have I possibly done? You can't see the live stream? Are you sure that the YouTube app is updated, up to date? Because, works here. What doesn't work here, though, on this Fire tablet, is the chat room doesn't appear, but the video will. So I don't know if that's maybe what your problem is. Bark Bradford Radio Amateur Club. Nice to have you here. The BARC Bradford Radio Amateur Club. Okay, here's the thing about the power supplies. I'm going to talk about that. So I was using, mine is Pyramid branded, but I was using this power supply. Okay. But mine is branded Pyramid. It is the PSV 300. It is a switching power supply. I've had it for a few years now, and it gives out 30 amps. And of course, for anything amateur radio, when you're transmitting, you need amps. And it's surprising even for a CB radio. So I plugged my CB radio on it. I plugged my FT450 and my new FTDX10. The biggest complaint I have is that this switching power supply creates buzzes at certain intervals of frequencies in the ham bands. And so I, started thinking, well, okay, I'm going to need something else eventually. Now, if you look at the price of linear power supplies, you're like, youch. The cheapest linear power supply with about 25 amps or something like that here in Montreal that I can get would cost me 700-ish Canadian dollars, which is a lot of money for a power supply. So I was looking at, would there be an alternative that's cheaper? And if all fails, well, I'll just go for one of those. And the fact also that they're very heavy is not necessarily what I want, because I want to have a power supply that I could easily take around and move around in the house or do something, not something that weighs 70 pounds. So I started searching on the web for stuff because what really made me purchase something else quickly was when I tried to contact the station from, I think it was Barbados, and he was right smack on one of the buzzes. And that made me so mad that, okay, because of that darn buzzing, I just can't make a contact. I thought I need something else. So I moved to a Chinese, and I'll give you guys the things that I did to make sure that what I was purchasing was okay. So I moved on to this Tech Power TP30 SWI, which is also switching. It's also capable of 30 amps. It has a amp meter and a voltmeter, depending on how you switch it. But it has something interesting here, which is called a noise offset. So I read about it first on the internet, and they were saying the noise offset, this power supply, is made for communications receivers and ham gear, because the offset, if there is a buzz, if it is on the frequency you're talking, you just offset, it moves away, and you're okay. So I thought, that's a compromise that I find acceptable. The problem is not that the power supply doesn't work. My problem was when the buzzing is on something that I want to hear, it's annoying. This one gives me I move it away from the frequency I'm listening to, which means it doesn't annoy me anymore. So that fact that it cost me Canadian $150, which is much less than 600 plus, if not 700, made me think, could that be a good power supply? But the problem is, you just purchased a $2,000 radio. So the first thing you want is you want to make sure a power supply, is a good power supply and doesn't react or do something that's going to just scrap a $2,000 radio at the same time. So I started looking online, and I came across a ham radio channel. And a guy tests power supplies on his ham radio channel. He tested tons of them, including this one. And he doesn't just test them. He removes the cover and he actually checks. He has extensive electronics knowledge. He actually checks how it's built, because that tells him if it's well built and if it's worth it. and if it's safe to use. So I started looking at his video where he tests it. First of all, he shows how accurate this display is of the amps used. So already that was kind of, oh, it's pretty accurate. Good. Second thing, he opens to see how well built it is. And the first thing that surprises him a lot is how well protected this power supply is inside, how well built it is, where there's protections everywhere in it. There's a lot of filtering in it. And his first thought is, wow, this is really well built for the price. So I looked at that and I was like, huh, that's interesting. And finally, of course, he talks of the offset and everything, which I totally understand what the offset was about. And at the end of his video, the last phrase that he says is, I would not hesitate any moment after all the tests that I've done to plug a $3,000, $4,000 transceiver on this little thing. It works great and it's well protected and it is amazingly good. So I thought, okay, let's buy it. And, I bought it on Amazon. If I don't want it, I can ship it back and whatever. I thought I'm going to try it. I got nothing to lose. I'm going to try it. First surprise that I got when I plugged that thing in is how much more quiet than the Pyramid it is. Not only most frequencies where I had buzzes had no noise, but the Pyramid is horrible below 5 megahertz. If you go on the 80 meter band or 160 meters, or you try to listen to stuff in the 2, 3, 4 megahertz range, the Pyramid is so noisy, it's crazy. This one is extremely quiet, even on the low bands. Now, it does have spurs, because you could see them. Not a lot and not as much as the Pyramid. Sorry, guys. So not as much as the Pyramid. And, of course, the cool thing about it is you can just offset. If it's on the frequency you're tuning, just move it away. And it runs quite cool, which I also like. There is a sticker on top that says, don't touch here because it might be hot. Now, amateur radio, you're not transmitting all the time, so it's like an off and on thing. I like also the fact that I could see the amps I'm using, so it's fun to see, when I'm doing ham contacts, see the needle move up to like 16, 18, 20 amps and see how much power you're actually consuming. I plugged a couple of very high consumption car bulbs that I had here. I know that each bulb was consuming about 2 amps, 3 amps. So I put like 10 of them, and it was like I was consuming like 24 or 25 amps, just to see if it could handle, the straight dope of give me 25 amps for a while. And then you hear the fan come through and everything. And even using 25 amps for like 20 minutes, the fan was there. You could definitely hear the fan brush up at 20 amps, but it stayed warm. It didn't become burning hot or anything. It was just warm. The cooling seems to be pretty good. And of course, the meter in front is lighted. So if it's dark, you can see the meter, no problem. So overall, if you're looking for a cheap supply that will do the job and that is surprisingly good, that Tech Power TP30 SWI, and now they have the SWII, or I guess it's the second version of it, which looks different, by the way. Check it out. I'm very impressed and find that for now it's actually a very good power supply to use. Works great on my receiver, and like I said, immediately notice how quiet it is compared to the Pyramid PSV 300. So that was kind of a little power supply review here. Let me go down here. So see if I missed out on anybody. Okay. Anything else here? John Santucci, nice to have you here. K7XRT from Tucson, Arizona. I haven't had anybody complain about anything on my transmissions for what I do. I actually told my neighbors that if they ever had weird things come in or whatever, if they hear voices or whatever funny thing, that I actually told them that I could be the culprit. Nobody complains about anything. Thing here is everybody's on cable or either cable or cable or what is it? Anyways, nobody's complaining. Matt, last year Wolverine did their Halloween show on Saturday instead of the day itself, which was on Sunday last year. I wonder if they'll do that again this year. Yeah, it's possible. It's possible. Yeah, Chas Tank, it's the same on mine. I think it's their app, the YouTube. It's not the official YouTube app. It's kind of a YouTube app made by for the Fire tablet. The chat doesn't work. Greg Walker, why do not ham radio manufacturers provide power supplies for the radios? You know what? A lot of it has to do, I think, with there's first the price increase that it would actually be. And to have a good power supply, it's expensive. And a lot of hams actually will have multiple equipment that they run often on the same power supply. So it's kind of more of a thing of, well, we'll sell you the transceiver, find yourself the power to run it. Pretty much no transceivers come with built-in power supplies. What else do we have? Yep, linear power supplies are definitely very, very heavy. Very heavy. Skip Wave DX, greetings to all. Rich here from Catskill Mountains, New York. No trick or treaters up here. You have to be driven around in rural, yeah. Danny, shortwave power supply looks interesting. It definitely is, honestly. Definitely is. Chastang, I love your coffee maker experience. Which ham radio channel is that? Sounds like one word subscribing to. Yeah, I'm gonna share it because I off my top of my head, I don't remember which one it is, but the guy tests a lot of power supplies and he opens them up, he checks how they're built. So when we say and when I say that I want to be fair with everything that I will actually talk about, because I know somebody somewhere will buy it based on what I say. Well, that was an example of it. Danny Shortwave was looking at the Alinco DM30 30 amp 13.8 adjustable digital power supply cost under $34.95. This one has that noise offset. So that the noise offset is going to be there to remove the buzzing if it ever is on a frequency So Carol, the thing is you don't want to run a Yaesu FTDF10 DX10 on batteries. You want to run it off a power supply. Especially it's not very portable. What else do we have? Francis Moore, maybe I'm barking up the wrong tree, but in the UK, a company called Charman makes top-end power supplies at a very reasonable cost. Because the thing is, Um, when they're reasonable cost, they're all switching. They're all switching. Okay, and switching power supplies aren't all equal. So if you look at different companies, all the companies that make power supplies all make switching power supplies, also pretty much all of them, including the high-end makers. And although a very well-built switching power supply can be very quiet, pretty much, I was looking at other videos that he made, and he was looking at the Antron switchings, and he was looking at power supplies that were much more expensive, and mentioning that he kind of mentioned in passage in one of his videos that he hasn't found any switching power supply that is zero noise. They all have noise at some frequency range. And so it was kind of the offset thing was kind of interesting for that. Because the ones that are linear, which are the quietest ones of all, the ones that make zero noise, you don't have them anymore in really cheap prices. Yeah, you got to be careful with the power supply what you choose. Definitely, that's for sure. Oh yeah, linear power supply are noiseless. Definitely, that is what is the noise. The. But I was looking at the I was looking at the if you don't have too much money to spend, what would be a good one that you could choose from that knows it works well, it does a job, and man, that one is surprising. What I'll do, Richard, I'm gonna find the channel because it's easy to find, and I'm gonna actually share the link so you guys all see it. Bradford Radio Amateur Club, nice channel. D2E0GYW. Cool. I haven't done any digital modes yet, Carol. I've been doing only voice SSB. I'll be checking that out soon, though, because I want to have some digital modes. Yeah, my jam. I thought kind of interesting to check that out. Man Max says I paid around 160, 180 for my Astron SS30M, the one with 2 analog meters, before everything happened. It's pretty quiet, although I haven't really checked everywhere. And that's the biggest problem. Is they're not necessarily noisy everywhere. Like the Pyramid. If I'm doing 10 meters, the Pyramid PSV 300, I don't hear anything there. But if I go on 80, forget it. It's noise hell. And even 20 is ish. It's kind of iffy. But that tech power supply, it's quiet almost everywhere. And if you do have a band that has a little bit of noise with it, and even the spikes of the buzzing from the switching aren't as high as the Pyramid one. They seem to be better filtered. But with the offset, you have the offset option to just move it away from whatever you're doing, which is great. Bradford Radio Amateur Club says, love my radio, ICOM IC746. Others out of Crafter's Kitchen. My dad used to drive my mom crazy by sending CQ on 6 meters back in the 70s. Always interfered with their TV sets before cable. Yeah, the 6 meters are here on the CB. The harmonic is close to channel 2. If you have a channel 2, it's crazy. Matt says, yeah, if you have one power supply you can use with it multiple transceivers, it may seem counterintuitive, but it probably saves money over time to having one PS. And, think about it. Now today they're more switching type, but imagine if in the days of analog, if you had to have the power supply in that transceiver, not only do you have a super heavy radio suddenly that is almost impossible to transport anywhere, and I think, I get the question because it seems like, oh well, you paid $2,000 for a radio and it doesn't even come with a power supply. But at the same time, I think having the option to use your own whatever power supply you want, is not a bad idea. What else do we have? EA3IEK, David in Barcelona, Spain, says also have a Mir Medium MPS 2030D switching supply that I use with my IC 7100, borrowed from AC, an outside main QTH, good enough and not too noisy. But of course, linears are better. That's definitely the case. Getting Radio TV guy, nice to have you here from Sherwood Park, Alberta. Did anyone else catch the composition Two Ghosts in the Air Glow from HARP this past week? Great signal here in Alberta. We'll be posting a video to it tomorrow. I got it. So here in Montreal, the HARP transmissions is something that if I wanted to have a chance to hear anything, I had to try the 06 UTC. So basically, I stayed up 2 days to try the 06 UT. I received absolutely nothing here in Montreal at all. And the one in the daytime, the 16 UTC time, frequencies used and all of that, and being in most of North America being in daylight, forget it. Chances were really, really small on that. I did try it, but heard nothing. So, but what I did was on the tries that I did, I tried with the Kiwi SDRs. The first one that I got, which I got pretty much the whole transmission, was on so there's the Lamont, Alberta Kiwi SDR that received it. But surprisingly, on 06 UT, the Hawaii Kiwi SDR that I tried had it very loud, and really, really well. And so tried the different frequencies and everything was kind of cool. Yeah, like you say, Matt, if transceivers do run on DC, so if you want to, if you don't have electricity, you can actually, use. I remember using for a while lead acid batteries to power the radios and the stuff. So definitely. A power supply called Charmin. Oh man, yeah, the toilet paper Charmin, the bears from the toilet paper. Well, we have the toilet paper supply line right here, and the product line for the power supplies is here. And we do use part of the toilet paper to isolate. Oh, God. Carol, W7WXV. Well, they are good. He was mentioning that those Astron power supplies, the switching ones, were quiet compared to a lot of other models, but you did find little peaks of buzz here and there. But they were definitely well filtered in general. TV Ostrowski, got you on the big screen today in Southeast Alberta. Your YouTube transmission is coming in garbled as times, though. I haven't heard that before. It could be a YouTube issue also because my settings haven't changed. I did lower a little bit my audio levels, but could be a YouTube issue also. YouTube sometimes it does happen from time to time. David says, by the way, my Yisu FT990 has an internal power supply, so it directly hooks up to the mains, though it is also a Molex style connector to work off DC in case necessary. Cool. Matt's, if not I'm mistaken, linear power supplies are terribly inefficient, which is one of the reasons why they've gone away. Someone who knows better can correct me if I'm mistaken. They are totally inefficient in general, definitely. That's why they have and create and generate a lot of heat. That is a big problem with linear power supplies. A lot of the energy is lost in heat, and they are very inefficient. Definitely, you're right on that. Um, but they are quiet, and that's why a lot of hams look for those linear supplies, because they don't have any, you know, um, any. They don't need any oscillators to switch and do stuff. They don't generate noise. They're very straightforward. Just, you know, AC. AC goes down with transformers. It's smoothed out. It's rectified, so it's smooth as possible, but it doesn't generate any noise. And you've got some filtering to make sure that no AC noise comes through. And so they are the quietest of all the power supplies. That's why I think there's still a lot of hams, and they're still going to be sold, 100 years from now because of that reason of how quiet they are. But yes, switching power supplies are very efficient compared to the standard power supplies, because when you pump up the electricity, the AC current, when you pump it up at a higher cycle rate, if you move it up from 60 hertz to 30 kilohertz, the efficiency of the transfers are way better. And also, you use small components. A linear power supply to go to 30 amps requires huge, components that can withstand the high amps. When you actually start switching the current to higher frequencies, the heat generated is smaller. Everything that is used to actually generate that power you need is smaller. Doesn't need to be as big, because less heat is generated. Less heat generated means it's more efficient, but you lose it at the expense of one big problem: is you start using oscillators to pump that current to high frequencies. And that's what's buzzing in the HF bands. You start hearing those high frequencies or harmonics of them, if it's not well filtered. So, but there is a way to build switching power supplies with very, very good filtering that, pretty much lowers to the noise to almost non-existent, if you want. Skipwave DX, do SDR radios have power supply problems within the computer host? Yeah, depends on a lot of things. The first of all, the cables you use. Generally, what you'll want in an SDR is to have it plugged in with USB cables that have these little Torid cores on the USB cable to remove the hash and the noise of computers. Computers are notoriously noisy devices. They got so many oscillators inside them, um, and it so the quality of the cable is important. So you're better off having a cable with these. If you plug, like, if you use one of the complaints I've seen from some people is they'll get a like this, an RTL SDR, like this one, and they'll complain that it's extremely noisy. And the problem is they plug this directly to the USB port of the computer. So you're just direct to the computer here. If you use this with a good USB cable that has, filtering on it, this will be less noisy and even better, much better, when you use it on such a cable that you can get. So there are high quality USB cables to kind of remove part of the noise. There's also to that, you got to add that not each computer is equal. Some computers make more noise than others, actually. So the power supplies are so crazy noisy that you just can't do anything, and it's very difficult to use even an SDR on them. So there's all sorts of things. that can happen. Bradford's Radio Amateur Club have a Pulsar PS30 power pack. Francis Moore, yeah, you're right. Mine's a switching supply. However, it works fine. Yeah, if it's well filtered in general, it's pretty cool. Eric Control, yep, 2030 amp. That's the thing. It's a very heavy due to transformer. And yep, lots of heat. Lots of heat, definitely. Lots of heat. What else do we have? Carol, W7WXV. Have you been working the contest this weekend? No, but I've been working a lot of the contest stations for the last week. What happened this week is when I had time, I actually tuned the bands with the FTDX10 to see who was on, and made a lot of contacts with some really cool stations because they were, kind of gearing up towards a contest. And so they were already making contacts on the air to prepare themselves, actually. So I made a lot of contacts with Cayman Islands, Aruba, what else? Anyways, tons of Caribbean stations and tons of other stations that were just preparing for the contest. Take care, Chess. What else do we have? Canyon Radio TV guy, the Anchorage, Alaska QSDR was also pretty loud, as well as the V6JY in Lamont. Yep. No, I didn't try anything about narrowband TV stuff. Greg Walker, my ICOM IC705 is a great shortwave receiver because it can use a battery. Francis Moore, my Christmas present is on its way. Belka V3. I was going to get a new Yaesu or ICOM, but going to wait and see what's new next year. The Belka sounded like a good set. Cool. Scott KC2CAD. Still run a 12-volt car battery for backup. And for years, it's all I had. David, the E3 IEK says this is most of the power supply station for my shack table from left to right. So he's sharing a picture here. I used to have a big lead acid battery here that was always hooked up in a way that if power goes off, it would switch immediately to the lead acid battery. So my ICOM ICR 8500, for example, was always powered. Nissan Greenwich, RTE Ireland 252 Longwave off the air tonight. Simon Templar, nice to have you here, my friend. Mad Max 2069, yeah, it's like my thin client I use with my PC. Very noisy. Well, yeah. It's like, my Asus gaming laptop. When it's just barely used, it's decent. But if anything pumps up, anything, and it uses the NVIDIA graphics GPU, and the power starts really, it needs more power to actually work, and then the noise ramps up real fast. Real fast. Cool, Greg. Have fun. And, if you want to have a CB radio, keep in mind that there's not as much activity on the CB bands as there used to be, but you can still have fun. So yeah, maybe RT on 252 is in maintenance. Maybe they're doing some maintenance on the transmitters. Edward SH, nice to have you here. So they're probably doing some maintenance, I would guess, on that 252 long-wave transmitter. Danny Shortwave, yes. I use my RTL SDR with a small hub extension cable to my Amazon Synport USB hub. Works fine. Yep, CQ Worldwide DX contest. So this week I enjoyed the contest, and by actually looking at all the stations that were preparing, there was a lot of contest groups Thursday, particularly. A lot of contest groups that were already set up on some of the Caribbean islands. There was one in St. Lucia that I got. So really nice. Nice to hear the reports also. Pretty, you know, I do have a very, very difficult time with one thing on ham contacts. Um, when a guy makes contact and asks you 7 times to repeat your call, and you repeat it in different ways, there was one particularly. So it was like, yeah, Victor Echo 2 Zulu Zulu India. And then he wants you to repeat, and then the ending, and it's like, yeah, well, Victoria Echo 1 2 1 2 Zanzibar. You go out of the standard phonetics and you try to find another way to say the same thing. And it was like Zanzibar, Zanzibar, Italy. And it makes you repeat in different ways. And then it's like, oh, you're 5'9". It's like, hey, come on. You made me repeat my call 9 times and give me a 5'9". No, that's not a 5'9". And I'm more into the reality when a station is weak and a little more difficult. I'm the one that's going to say like, oh, you're 4 or 5 or whatever. But man, people are way too easy on the 5'9". It's like they don't want to bother. It's like, oh, everybody's 5'9". You're 5'9". Hey, you're 5'9" too, and you're 5'9" also. It's like it's like a Oprah 5'9" session. Everybody's 5'9" today. Everybody's 5'9". It's like, come on, guys. It makes me kind of wonder, it's like, come on, guys, please. So, any pirates popping up on the bands, just out of curiosity, at 2138 UT. Let's check it out. So, there was one earlier. NID 6885 upper sideband. See if I hear anything here. Yep. Oh, that must be mixed radio. It is so wide. It is so wide when I look at it. I have a hard time thinking this is not Mixed Radio International. Mixed Radio International usually is very, very wide band. So it's 6885 upper sideband. There is a pirate. There's also something apparently on 6925 upper sideband. So a couple of pirates popping up right now. Jeff McLeod says, agree, Jill, about the signal reports. I use my ears, not an S meter, which is what you're supposed to do. And that's what I do also. I listen, and I'll give my reports based on what I hear. You're really loud and clear, you're a 5'9". It's okay. You're in the noise, a little difficult. I might still give you a 5, but I might give you a 5'5", or and of course I won't hesitate to. I actually had somebody, I think, not being used to somebody being more down to earth, honest of what report you're going to give. That I remember giving a 3 and 4 or something like that once, and the guy didn't understand what that meant. And like, what, you're expecting a 5'9"? I'm having a lot of difficulty now. I'm almost generous in a 3-4. And it's like, yeah, you're hard. It's hard. I'm having a hard time. That scale goes from 1 to 5, and from 1 to 9. There are 2 numbers here. You got to use them. It's okay. I mean, I know that a lot of guys, just don't want to bother with trying to say something or whatever. But oh man, it's like, come on. Man Max 2069. Yeah, it makes me a bit mad when people like that gives everyone 5.9. They'd give QRM a 5.9 if they could. Oh yeah, definitely. One of the guys that gave me a 5.9, which it was possible because it was very clear between us, but the contact he had before me, he made him repeat so many times, not just a call, but his name, his location, and whatever, that when he said, "Oh yeah, you're 5.9," you're like, you just spent 10 minutes trying to actually understand what the guy's saying, and you're giving a 5.9. That's kind of, come on, come on. You know, I mean, I know some people with their, one thing that I've noticed on the ham bands, and you guys might agree with that. When there's these low frequency voices, I was going to say low talkers, which makes me think of a Seinfeld episode. They're not low talkers. They are, the range of frequencies of their voice is so low, and the equipment they use gives them such a low frequency voice in their SSB that it's actually difficult to understand, even with a good signal. You're like, what did you just say? It's so low frequency that it's like, yeah, well, this is Vector Echo 2. And it's like, what are you saying? I'm missing that. It's like there's some frequencies missing in the audio here. I don't know. These are the hardest ones when they have these big low frequency voices. It's like, whoa, okay. I gotta listen to that a little more before I understand what you just said. Matt MDK2 contesters always give 5.9. That's something that's just how it is. Any other contacts give or get a real signal report, but contests are like verbal FT8. Just log the contact and move on. Yeah, I know, but still. Keegan, you're 5.9. You're 5.9. Everybody's 5.9. Francis Morgan, back to the beginning, bought a crystal set from Theo in Greece and reel of 20 gauge copper wire to run around the garden. See what happens. Cool. RJ Dakota makes me wonder if there's still a universal standard like this SIO or a SIMPO code. Yeah, well, you what happens is over the years that was very popular, and I remember the first reception reports ever that I made. I mean, man, they were stuck on, or you're sending a SINPO code, and try to understand what the SINPO code is all about. I think for people that are older, that have been in the radio for a while, there's a we know what that is, and there's still a use for it. But I have a feeling that on a lot of radio stations, when I listen to mailbag shows with these people that are kind of newer, and I sometimes wonder when I listen to certain radio stations how they actually understand what it's all about. One thing for sure, KBS World Radio in South Korea, they have no clue what shortwave is all about. No clue. Their only answers all the time is, "We'll send that to the technical department." Yeah. Do you know what shortwave is actually? Do you understand how KBS World Radio goes from Seoul, Korea to North America, for example? And a lot of stations, I feel that the SINPO code, even though they'll read it on the air from a reception report, they kind of not sure what that means, honestly. And that's why I always say, if you do have a, send a reception report, I always say, today, you can mention a SINPO code if you want, but make sure to detail in your own words how the quality of reception was I think that is going to help, honestly. Undecided hobbies. Nice to have you here. Matt said, "Oh yeah, I actually threw off quite a few people with some of the reporting I did. I'm thinking that it's like that's there. That's when you like. So, do you really understand what the 5-9 system is all about? You know, uh, Mick, nice to have you here from the UK. M6CMG." And it says all reports should be real. 5-9 is ridiculous all the time. Yeah, yeah, definitely. You know, the low talker in Seinfeld. Gonna wear the puffy shirt. I should have worn a puffy shirt today. Edward, with RT 5252 off, I'm picking up Radio Algeria on the frequency tonight. Just check their online stream and it's channel 3. Wow. Metalunar, Jill, I'm curious. The lowest shortwave frequency I have ever received, 3215. Is there anything broadcast between 1710 3215? I think it is the 160 meter band, but I may be wrong. Okay, so first of all, shortwave stops at 3000 kilohertz. Even though a lot of shortwave receivers will give you, the range, they're going to say shortwave starts at 1711 kilohertz or 1710. Technically, below 3000 kilohertz, you are in medium wave. But that said, is there anything broadcast below? So 3215 is, I believe, WWCR that has a transmission there. If it's not too noisy where you are, yeah, definitely there are stuff below 3000 kilohertz. I hear here in Montreal, I hear easily the Canadian Coast Guard from Nova Scotia, Newfoundland. There's one transmitter here in the province of Quebec near Rivière-du-Loup. There's a few things like that on 2749 upper sideband and 2598 upper sideband. Late at night, 2500 kilohertz, I'll hear WWV, especially in the winter. I hear a little bit of air communications because there's the air band at the top of 2 megahertz, so at 29 something. The 160 meter band is from 1800 to 2000 kilohertz. I hear hams all the time on that 160 meter band. What is especially needed to hear stuff there is the signals you'll hear, because 3215 is a stronger signal than you'll hear below, because it's a broadcast, international broadcast station, which is WWCR. So you'll have to have a lower noise floor, not too much interference, and almost everything will be in sideband there, except WWV to 2500 kilohertz. But there's stuff to listen to at night, and if the noise isn't too high, you should be hearing stuff in that frequency range. Matt, with ham radio, it's RS, readability and signal, or RST with the tone for CW. Yeah. David, I only give real reports. That being said, I still haven't taken part in a contest yet. Yeah, in the contest, 5-9, 5-9, 5-9. Everybody's 5-9. Eastern Greenwich, yep. Algeria 252. Kind of nice change. That's cool. Gives you guys the occasion to listen to something else. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. It's like one of the medium wave stations here in around Montreal, stops for a while, and we could hear something else. Scott, KC2C80, for a while I was 5 and 9. Now I give 5 plus 9. Randy, MFJ has a good switching power supply used for 1 year. What else do we have? Actually, it's medium wave, 160 meters. Medium wave goes from 300 kilohertz to 3,000 kilohertz. So you have long wave that is below 300 kilohertz. So if you hear something like 252 kilohertz, for example, that is long wave. 300 kilohertz to 3,000 kilohertz is the medium wave range. That includes the AM radio band and all of that. And you have 3,000 to 30,000 kilohertz, which is the shortwave spectrum. What else do we have? Ricky says, simple subjective, especially noise and propagation. I have a high tolerance for noise propagation and perfections. So a 3 or 4 for me might be a 2 for someone else. Also prefer describing what I've heard. Yeah, the idea is to mostly let them know that what you are hearing is understandable and readable, basically. Thank you, Francis, for the tip. Nice to have you on board. Thank you so much. RJ Dakota WA0RCR on the air. Glenn Hauser is a broadcast dad. Yeah. I used to hear them WA0RCR when I lived at the other place before. My noise floor was so much lower that I could actually make it out on 1860 kilohertz. But here, all I hear is a carrier. Ricky, realized the USB cable for my SDR doesn't have a ferrite chuck. That, you know what? That could make a difference. You might be able to lower even more the noise of your SDR if you have one. The one that I use for my SDR play is one that actually came with, it's funny, it's one that came with a scanner, a flatbed scanner that I had a long time ago. And it had ferrite chucks on each end. And I plugged my SDR play with it and works great. And the AirSpy HF Plus comes with its own cable that has ferrite chucks on it also. Sheila, nice to have you here from Belleville, Ontario, Canada. Matt, 6885 USB now being reported as being cool AM. Pretty sure that must be mixed radio relay. Yeah, it is mixed radio because the USB signal is extremely large, and only mixed radio is so large. So it's cool AM radio relay, definitely. Pretty strong here now, making a S9 plus 20 to S9 plus 30 signal. It's really strong. 6885 upper sideband. Very strong here right now. Yeah, that's what I do also, like David says. When signals are really, really strong, I'll often say, 5.9 plus 10, 5.9 plus 20. I'll also do the same. JJ Hendo, so medium wave equal AM band. It's very important to understand that it's the AM band. You know what mixes up a lot of people is AM band, AM mode. In North America, we had the habit of calling the AM band because we called it with the same mode of transmission they're using. But in reality, we're in medium wave. It's a medium wave band. Kevin Murray, nice to have you here from Windy, Wyoming. No problem, you're late. Wife and I were Christmas shopping. Wow. Good to see you too, KK7HGD. Tony, greetings from Ireland and happy Halloween weekend. Looking forward to Pirates and Shortwave. Joel, will you be reviewing the new Belka receiver? I'm gonna take a look at it. Maybe that could be the next purchase for a radio. I know a lot of people would like to have my take on it, and know what I think and what I feel. So definitely that could be something to check out. Shelly, nice to have you here from South Central Pennsylvania, and no problem. Hope you are well too. Ricky, well, I have to run. Take care, my friend. It's nice to have you on board, as usual. So remember, guys, tomorrow starting at 0 hours UTC tonight for a lot of stations, we're moving to the B22 shortwave schedule. So a lot of the stations that you will be listening to might have shift frequency. So Matt, I think it's just a question of good propagation between us, because I think I wouldn't be that. You know, I made so many contacts recently with California, Oregon. I even had a station in Colorado that we just have to find the perfect band, perfect propagation, and I think it could be much easier than you think to make a contact together. Even with David in Barcelona, I've made a few contacts with very modest stations from Spain, and it works great. To answer a question that I've been asked a lot, is the Yaesu FTDX10 receiving things that you wouldn't hear on another receiver, like a portable radio, like a Texan? No. Honestly, on the same antenna, the Yaesu FTDX10 is a sensitive receiver. It's a great receiver. It works great listening to shortwave broadcasts in general and all of that. Utility stations too. But there are no signals I'll hear on the FTDX10 that I don't hear on, say, the Texan H501X, which is a lot less expensive. Because, I'll say it again. I think sensitivity on all of these radios is pushed to a maximum. And they're all pretty good at doing, receiving anything. Where the FTDX10 will beat a portable, though, and receive is where you have features like the IF shift that can sometimes help you get something that is kind of too close to another signal. It can shift it away a little bit. There are things like that that definitely will, the signal is going to be received on the portable, but you might be able to have it clearer on the Yaesu. The other thing also is the Yaesu. I've been playing a lot with the digital noise reduction feature, and it lacks in quality of use compared to what I've heard on some SDR software, and I think it still needs to be tweaked by Yaesu. But that said, in certain occasions, that noise reduction feature does help make some signals very clear and remove some of the background noise. But it is limited. And one of the things that you not forget, because a lot of people think it's a magic trick, it's like, oh, I'm going to remove that noise and get that signal. Um, None of the receivers, none of the transceivers I've seen in action um, that use the noise reduction features are capable of bringing something that's very weak out of the noise. Doesn't work. The noise reduction feature reduces noise of signals at a certain level that are already audible, does not get you a station out of the noise from that you wouldn't be able to hear without it. It's not really the way they work. But that said, like I said, the Texan will receive the same signals. The only difference is that on the Yaesu, I have features that can help me bring that signal a little clearer enough that maybe it makes a difference between I hear it and I have a hard time, and I hear it and I can actually make it out and understand what it's being said. We're going to call it like that. But, I was not expecting to have a receiver in the Yaesu FTDX10 that would blow my mind. It doesn't. It's very good. It doesn't blow my mind. It's just very good. That's how I would actually put it in explanations. And like I said, the extra features you don't have in a portable, because that's one of the big things of these big radios, is these big transceivers, expensive radios, is what could make a difference. And yeah, okay, I'm getting that stations because of these features, honestly. So what else do we have? Anything else here? RJDA Dakota 6885 fading in and out using the 808. I can hear a station. What I hate about using radios like the XH Data D808, or any radios that the precision of the frequency is based on mostly using a BFO, or darn, pirate radio stations are very, very difficult to really really pinpoint the tone correctly when there's music. It's rough on a BFO radio to get the proper tone. And that's why I like the Texan 501, 990, or even the Texan PL330. When you calibrate it very precisely with WWV, it makes it so much easier to be able to get the correct tone for music on pirate stations, for example. Richard Wagner, is the SDR as good as the Yaesu? For receive, for me, an SDR is even more interesting, because the SDR, what happens with the SDR? So the sensitivity for me, is the same. The SDR, once again, will receive what my Yaesu gets. But now we're talking about an SDR that has software that can actually process. So you're getting, you're getting close to an expensive radio. But you got to understand also is that we don't think about it that way. It's like we think about it, well, that SDR is $150. Yeah, but plus the cost of the computer. That cost of the computer, you got to put the cost of the computer in an SDR, because technically, yeah, it's not a $200 radio. It's $1,000 radio because of the price of my computer, or more. The computer does a lot of the processing. So depending on the software you use, you get great results. One of the things I would say is, for example, I use the AirSpy HF Plus here, which is 170 US, something like that, 150 US. I use it with the SDR Console V3, which has noise reduction features. It does have digital noise reduction features. The FTDX10 has the digital noise reduction features. Actually, the FTDX10 is a hybrid radio. Part of it is software defined. It is an SDR mixed in with a standard receiver. And the thing that you see is that you get very close to the performance of these radios on an SDR with a good SDR. So there are a few things, of course, that differ. For example, the SDR Play have one flaw. Below 5 megahertz, you got to be careful when you hear a signal. Sometimes you might be hearing an image. That's not going to happen on the Yaesu. But that said, that's not happening on the AirSpy. The AirSpy HF Plus does not have that problem. So, but you know what? It is for me, the SDR is even more fun, because on the Yaesu you have a 1000 kilohertz span of that screen for the waterfall. What I like is the SDR play that I'm using. For example, I can have 10 megahertz if I want, and especially, I get a lot of people that say, I don't understand why you want more. Well, use it on a very big screen. I got a 55-inch screen here, and you'll see that 5 megahertz, for example, on a 55-inch screen, is much easier to handle when you use it on a laptop. Of course, on the laptop, I don't want that big span. Things are too cram jam because the the screen is too small. There's not enough space to really detail correctly everything. Put that on a 50-inch screen or more, suddenly that extra wide space makes it much more interesting to use, a lot more bandwidth. So, there's advantages to everything, and nothing's perfect in the world, that's for sure. Um, what else do we have here? Just gonna check it out here. I like the that David says, after achieving my license, I discovered I had more mic fright than I thought. Been getting over that, but I still don't feel like rag chewing. Yeah, I think a lot of people are like that. That's why, honestly, that's why I think part of the reason why FTA is popular. The fear of the microphone, or the fear of having to talk to somebody, it's just not there with that mode. Add the fact that it's great for DXing. You get the drift of why some modes are more popular than others. Even I that do these live shows, the first few contacts were like a little stressful. It's like, I'm brand new at this. I'm doing something that, and oddly, I say I'm brand new at this, but I've been listening for 40 years. I already know the do's and do nots of making a ham contact, and that is still something that the first contact I made on the air, I was there was a little stress there. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna talk to someone for the first time with this thing. And you feel like you're brand new and all of this. And what was really nice is, one of the first contacts I made, there was an old ham. The guy, I think, told me was like 80 or 85, and I think it was South Carolina. He was calling CQ, and I answered his call back. And of course, answered his call back with that little, I'm brand new to all of this, so I'm not kind of used to it yet. I think, a lot more of the confidence side of making a contact, or doing something that you never did before, or have little experience in actually doing, participating, even though you have all the knowledge that goes with it. And I remember that I told a guy that he was like my third or fourth contact, and that I was newly licensed. And the guy said, I would never have guessed, because I listened to you talk, make the contact, everything you do. You look like some am that's been doing this forever. I would never, never have guessed you're new. And he says, what you're doing it well, and you're really, really doing it good. And it's like, when somebody tells you that, they're like, yeah, well, technically there's no reason I don't do it well. Ham radio operators have been listening to for so long that, there's part of it that's like, what you're already doing even before you do it. But, there's this, I think it's normal for everyone. There's this little confidence issue when you just pick up the microphone and want to make a contact. Um, the only way to go and make sure that you get it, out of it, is to actually talk to someone and have contacts. The other day, there's that ham station in Italy, and a couple of weeks ago, there's another ham station. The guy wanted to talk. It was not just a you're 59959, thank you, bye bye. It was really a conversation. And you get to the point where it's like, well, you know, I remember I told myself one thing, because the first one, it was like, oh, this guy wants to talk, so we did have a contact that lasted maybe like 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and which is a lot of fun, honestly. But I remember I was in front of my radio and I was like, wow, he wants to talk. And I just thought to myself, you talk all the time. You talk to people all the time. You have tons of people that you meet up everywhere and friends and so on. There's nothing different. Just be yourself. Just be the guy that has a conversation, and just follow through with whatever he's saying, and listen, and have your own comments after that of whatever something he said, maybe. Or it's like making this here. I mean, the first time I did this, I was chicken shit. Today it's like it's a regular, it's like talking to a friend in my living room. It's a normal thing. You just have to do it, and do it regularly. Greg, see you next Saturday. iMapper, nice to have you here from Moscow, Russia. Glad to join the show. Recently bought a Malahite SDR2, original one. It was very steep learning curve, so I do my first steps with it. Cool. Have fun. I think the best thing is to have fun. Francis Moore, Gilles, what's going to blow your mind? I think I'm at this time now that blowing my mind would simply be out for radio, would be to mostly remove noise. But we've come to a point where radios are sexy, they're cool. That the Yaesu FTDX10, man, how cool can that be? But I'm not impressed anymore. It's maybe I've been doing this too much or something. Keegan DXer, shout out to Paul the cat and my cats Mitzi, Tom Tom, and Short Stuff. Cool. Jay Waterston 69, nice to have you here. JD Dakota says, I also have a Texan PL330 and it's great for SSB. It stays perfect. I used to have a DX160, definitely not spoiled. It used to drift like a battleship, but I loved it. My PL330 is incredible. Yeah, definitely. Hooked up. Hook 911 says, have you tried the RSP Duo and the diversity receive? I'm thinking getting one to try that with discount and cross country wireless loop antenna. No, I've never tried a Duo and the diversity receive stuff. RGA Dakota, could I hang an MLE30 on an outdoor rafter above my Radio Shack? Yeah. Why not? Kamikaze 76, nice to have you here from West Michigan. Brenda Costa, I think this is so awesome that AM radios are so great. I did CB radios in the 70s and talked Skipland DX many times. It is fun, It is fun. Scott KC2C80 and tried talking about other hobbies using my ham hobby. Yeah, definitely. Having a conversation of different things and learning about other people also. It's kind of fun, Gary 24 fan, no such thing as too much radios. No, I know. I'm not there. I don't have too much. Pretty cool. But it's something you gotta come through. And how many times have we heard in the hobby of ham radio that people are microphone shy? They don't feel comfortable getting on the air and talking to somebody. I think it has to do with the same fear that people have of making public speech, talking in front of a crowd. How many of you out there would say, I am confident going out in front of a crowd and talking? most of you are probably like everybody else, which is, I'm scared crazy of talking in front of a crowd of people. Um, you know, I do this. I don't see you guys, obviously. An example of where, yeah, it could be maybe a little intimidating. When I did the CIDX barbecue live shows, there was a live audience in there, and now people were watching me. And I have to admit that that had a different feel to it. It was a little more stressful at the beginning to do the same thing I do here, but now there's 20, 25 people watching me. Where here it's, just a chat room, but still, I still know people watching me. I mean, the first show I did, I was stressed out of, well, people are going to watch me now. JJ Hendo, have you ever heard of Hard Bell? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I used to hear him on the radio. MDK2, big part of Ham Mike's shyness is not being sure of knowing the lingo. At least for me, that's part of it. Yeah, yeah. You don't want to. You want to don't want to look amateurish. You want to look like you know what you're doing and what you're talking about. And even if you've heard it a million times, one thing that I still have a hard time is ending a contact. That my ham call has to be the last. I always mix up and end up saying my ham call first and the other ham call last, which is the other way around. I sometimes mess up like this, but for the rest, yeah, I totally get it. Philip, nice to have you here. G0PVK. Dubious, nice to have you here from the Netherlands. David, I think having first been a listener has this effect. You get to know quite well the thrill of the QSO, but when you finally get to press a PTT in front of the mic, you discover you're not used to that. Yeah, you're used to listening to it. You know how it works. You're not used doing it because you never did it. You just listen to others do it for you. I guess maybe that's the thing is it's like having somebody else do something for you instead of you doing it all the time. When it gets to the turn of, well, maybe you should do it now, I'm not sure what to do. But you've seen somebody else do it so many times. But you get in front of that thing and it's like, I'm not sure what to do. It's part of it. I think it's part of the all of it. And we don't want to look dumb or stupid when we're doing stuff. We want to be careful and maybe part of we always say that there are hams out there. They're like, they call themselves like experts, and you gotta everything needs to be perfect and blah blah blah. I was talking about the 5.9 thing. I mean, if you did not ask my call and things 5 times, I'm okay with the 5.9, even if I'm probably maybe not that clear, but you heard me and understood me immediately. I'm okay with the 5.9 report. I think we got to be careful with the. I gave some 5.9 to people that weren't that strong, but they were clear, and it was like you're 5.9, you're okay, 5.9. For me, it's obvious that I didn't miss any words, and that I totally understood the contact, even if you weren't that strong compared to the other station. I'll give a 5.9 very often, but the there are hams out there that look like they're experts, and they're just like try to correct everything and want to be perfect in every way, and it's like come on, it's like we got to give some slack. It's not not everybody's. There are new people out there that are shy and that want to do their contacts and their first ever contact. Everybody, I'm pretty sure, remembers his or her first ham contact and how stressed maybe you were of doing it. The hesitation of, do I answer that call? Do I try it? You know, Um, Chris G7VEO, all I said today is 5914. Hooked 911. The first time I talked on ham was my club's field day. I was very mic shy. I kept forgetting the call sign I was using. That's another thing, also. When you operate a special event station, an example, I was operating the special event station for the CIDX club this for the 60th anniversary. It's a very different thing. And there are many things that are stressful in it. If many stations are calling you, the stress of trying to make as many contacts, but also understanding everybody, and people are waiting to try to make their contacts after, and all of that. There's a different stress out of that. Making a special event is a different stress. Glenn says from South Carolina, began putting up an end-fed long wire yesterday. Will take me about 7 to 9 days as I am disabled and have no help. Take your time, and you know what? When you're ready, that's going to be a lot of fun, and sure you're going to enjoy. Don't have too much noise. And fed long wire is pretty good. Pretty good. It's very surprising. So hey guys, 6885 kilohertz, strong pirate. I'm gonna say good night for tonight. A little tired and want to eat and make lasagna. I want to thank everybody for being here. I'll be keeping an eye on the radio tonight, so I'll be posting on the Facebook group any pirates that I hear. Do listen to Pirates tonight, tomorrow night, and Monday. Do tune around also the ham bands for all of the stations. It's the CQ Worldwide DX contest. And do take care and listen to the radio, guys. We'll be back next Saturday at 20 hours Universal Time with another show. Thanks for those that gave a tip. Thank you so much for being here. It's always a lot of fun. Thanks, guys. Stay safe and see you soon on the channel.